there's only a certain amount that you can do.
And discipline is a huge part of life. You need discipline. I mean, if you one day when you're an adult you want to give up smoking, for an example, you need discipline. If you want to run a successful job, you need to be disciplined that you go to work on time. I mean, discipline is probably one of the most important parts of life.
Especially in this game, you got to get up, you got to be disciplined to get up in the morning. This is your life, and you got to accept that. It's the same with us. If we don't get up and get to the bus on time in the morning, the kids don't get to work. And how would the trainers feel about that?
Yes.
And it's the same thing. It's a job. It's a passion. You've got to get up and do it. Some of the guys are missing work and I've got a headache and things like that. I wake up with aches and pains every day. It doesn't stop me from going to work.
Correct, yeah.
And that's what they don't understand. And it sometimes it comes to bite them at the end of the day.
Welcome to another edition of In the Box Seat with myself, Warren Lenferner, and our very special guest today, Nicky Roebuck, ex-jockey and current riding master at the South African Jockey Academy. Before we talk to and greet and chat to Nicky, a couple of announcements. Andrew Harrison, as always, as usual, missing in action, sunning himself in the game reserve. He sent me a picture, Nicky, of him with a big jug of Amarula cream and a lion in the distance.
Beautiful. Did he have shoes on?
He did, actually. He had Crocs. I think his wife forced him to wear the Crocs.
Can't believe it.
So Andrew's not with us. We'll have to give him stick and punishment next Thursday when he's back. And Tawanda Taravinga, our head man, is also not back. He's unfortunately a little under the weather, but he sent the A-team. Nicky Roebuck is our guest. We'll talk to him and find out a bit more about him and what his role is in the South African racing industry. Nicky, thanks for your time and lovely just to catch up with you.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. Good to be here.
The question I ask everybody, and whenever I speak to the guests during the week, they all like that question and think it's an important question. How did you hear about horse racing? When did you know about it? What did you do before horse racing? How did it all start for you?
Sure, it's a long time ago, Warren. Basically, started on a small holding in Stellenbosch. We lived on a small holding ourselves, and went to a school called Renish Primary in Stellenbosch. And one of my friends' mothers was a very good show jumper at the time. Obviously, show jumping and racing very much involved, together. And she knew a bit about the academy, and she said to me, we were both very small, but he looked like he was going to get a bit chunky, and I sort of stayed the same.
Okay.
And she said to me, what do you think about going to the academy? And I was like, didn't know what she was talking about. And she had all the paperwork and pamphlets and everything. She was really clued up, And I read up about it and took it home to my parents, like everyone does, and they said, look here, we'll support you, whatever you want to do. At the time, I wasn't, I was 14 years old. I wasn't like I was wanting to do anything.
Yes.
I was very sporty, played A-team tennis, I played hockey. I did just about every sport, baseball, soccer, a little bit of rugby for a little bit, but I was so smaller. I was more the orange water boy than anything else. The bench warmer.
Talking about rugby, they put me on once. I mean, I might not have been small, but I was completely cordless and clueless. So my rugby stint lasted 10 minutes into the first game.
Yeah, I think I lasted half a season. I was very quick, so they put me on the wing sometimes, and I did score a few tries, but it didn't take long for me to stop that. And then went for the interviews. They came down to Cape Town. It was the principal at the time, Mike Keeley, Benji Johnson, and Mr. Curtis. They came down. I think there was, if I can remember, there must have been 5 or 6 of us from there. It was ones that are still currently riding were myself, Lorenzo Karim, and Morne Vinar were from Cape Town. There was a couple of others that didn't last. I think the one kid, what was his name, Jock or something, Fourie, who's, I think his grandfather was Royce Fourie. And he came up, took one look at the plaque that we've got had in our foyer at the time, saw his grandfather's name and turned around and said, no, this is not for me.
Okay.
So he left that afternoon. So he didn't last long.
Sure.
And then, myself, Lorenzo, and Mornay went right through. Mornay's still riding today. So
do you still keep in touch with him? And obviously Lorenzo here at Summerfeld.
Lorenzo's here at Summerfeld. Mornay, we speak from time to time, about Joshua, and with Joshua being with us, his son. So we have spoken on occasion.
Okay.
I don't say we talk every day, but we are certainly still in touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then at one stage when you arrived at the academy, you were telling me before we started to record that you didn't enjoy it. You nearly were kicked out, or you nearly left. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, it was very early stages. I was very small. I was very light. I weighed 29 kilos when I started. So when we got put on the horses, it wasn't fun for me at that stage. It was hard. The riding masters were hard on us. You basically got to the 6-week mark and it was in or out. There was no give him a chance or whatever. So by then, I was just making the grade. Then started track work. Up here at Summerfeld, in those days you weren't like where you rotate like these days. You were a Summerfeld apprentice, a Ashburton apprentice, or a Clearwood apprentice. Okay. So you stayed at that centre. You didn't travel around.
Sure. Okay.
So that's what it was. So I was a Summerfeld apprentice at that time. And I think my first day I fell off twice, went back to stables twice, and I was nightmare. I was scared. So I then started pulling moves. Started getting sick, phantom sickness, and they said to me, look here, you're not cutting it, you might have to go. Surely enough,
did that shake you up, or did that wake you up? Did it give you a bit of a skrik?
It did. I picked my boots up, I dusted myself off, and I really put my head down, and it was sort of coming right. I was still battling a little bit, and then a gap opened at Clearwood. I think someone left to Joburg or went home, or I can't remember. And Mr. Curtis said, would you like to try Clearwood? I said, only a pleasure. Tried there, and as I say, the rest is history. Sure. I got in with the trainer, who he's like a second father to me, James Butterworth.
Where is James?
He's
got a petrol station down the coast.
He manages a petrol station in Toti, a Shell garage in Toti.
Wonderful man, wonderful person.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. He was my saving grace. He was assistant trainer for Buddy Nassif, the late Buddy Nassif at the time. So it was during the season that I started riding work. It was about August or something. And he took me under his wing. I wrote a bit of work for him. He was working sort of with or under Neville Pearce at the time, the late Neville Pearce. And I wrote a bit of work for him. Ivan Pickering was there at the time. Dennis Bosch, my first ride was for Dennis Bosch at the time, and all the visiting trainers were still there. Alexander, Pat Lunn was there, Passmore, Kareem Bestel. I had a very good run with Bestel. I rode my first group ride was for her, and I got beaten in the Mercury. I think it wasn't the Mercury Sprint. It was that race at Clearwood. I can't remember what race it was. It was very unlucky. Ran second. Sure. Horse called this time Lino, so James took me under his wing. It then came the end of the season, and he was going to go back to Joburg, and he asked Buddy if he could carry on, so hold a few horses back, which Buddy agreed to, and I started riding for him. He then took out his own license, and went from there. Rode for him for years. He really put me on the map. My first winner was for them, so was for him, but under Buddy Nassif's name. I rode a good few winners for them, and as well as other trainers.
You still keep in touch with James?
Yeah, we speak weekly. We try and see each other as often as possible. He's very fond of my children. He's godfather to my first, to my daughter. Very, very close still.
I don't know if he watches this podcast, but maybe you'll tell him that he should. I don't know if he's technology advanced. Like I'm certainly not, but try and get him to watch this, because he's a good man. I say he was a good man. He was a good trainer, but he is a good man, James. And with Gary Rich and everybody, I remember him from those days, but we haven't seen him for ages. So
he's not. He doesn't watch racing every day, but he likes to have a look every now and then, and he keeps in touch. So I'll certainly tell him to watch this.
Okay, then let's talk about your successes, because you've ridden quite a few countries and successfully. Tell us more about that.
started off slowly. I rode before I moved to Cape Town in my third year. So I finished my matric year, halfway through my third year. I was already traveling to Cape Town. My dad was very friendly with an owner down there who's still got horses now, Alf Duncan.
Okay, yes,
so
the black and white colours.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Lovely family.
Very, very, very nice family. And he had a horse with Glenn Puller. I can't remember his name now. It'll come to me. And he wanted me to ride it because they were friends. And so I flew down. It was sort of halfway through my third year. It was my first ride down there. Flew down with. It was a big meeting. Jeff Lloyd from here, quite a few guys from here. Picked up Gavin Fenton and a few of the boys in PE, and we flew down to Cape Town. First ride, mile. We got there late, so I didn't have time to walk the course. I got into the pens, and Jeff was drawn next to me. I'll never forget. And at Kenilworth, there's two courses, you know, and I was like, well, which way do I go? He says, well, don't look at me. I never know which way I'm going. Yeah. So he said, just follow the fence. Anyway, I jumped out, I was drawn 16 or something, went to the front and never looked back. The horse won. So it was an absolutely wonderful day. They were all there. And that was the start of my career in Cape Town. I then went down again, and I think the following meeting I rode 3 winners. So when I finished my matric, I was already on the board in Cape Town. Okay. You know, so I think I finished on the Friday, and I left on the weekend to move down to Cape Town. I was apprentice to a lady called Penny Bester.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
She had a reasonable string. I think she had about 38 horses at the time, and rode. I think my first ride for her was a winner. And cracked on from there. I got in with the late James Lightheart, who was very fond of me. Very hard man, but very loyal.
Yes.
Rode a lot of winners for him. I think I rode all in all. I must have ridden over 50 winners for him alone. You know, so very good to me. Carried on riding winners for Penny. I rode a lot for Mike Bass for them. I rode for everybody in Cape Town. I had the job, I think, for about one meeting for Jerry Ramsden. I think I rode a winner for him, then got bombed because I missed a string.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, you know, all the weird and wonderful characters of the game. Yeah, no, wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Nicky, so safe to say then, basically, just going back to in Cape Town. So obviously South Africa, all the tracks here in South Africa you've been on.
Yeah, I rode in Bloem, I rode in Kimberley, all the tracks in Joburg. You know, we took horses up here, myself and James, for some of the handicaps up. I think the Yellowwood handicap and races like that. I rode in the Gold Bowl. I think it was my first meeting up there. Buddy put me on a horse. It was too strong for me. I tried to tuck it in. I lasted until the road and pulled it out and went about 25 lengths clear. So that was my introduction to Joburg racing. I wasn't very popular, but I only weighed about 35 kilos at the time. So, you know, you can't blame me.
Yeah, absolutely. You're trying to control 500 odd kilograms and you only weigh 35. It couldn't have been easy.
It wasn't fun. I can tell you that much. Rode on all the tracks. I think my first international experience was while I was still at the academy. Top apprentice at the time was invited over to the international apprentice races in Macau. Okay. So happened that year was that international racing conference was held in Macau. Jeez. Over that time. So I went over and we had banquets. We were busy every day. We had banquets. We all the delegates from all over the world were there.
It must have been a wonderful time.
It was.
Great time.
My father went with me.
Okay.
They paid for everything except his flight, so he joined me, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. So that was my first experience. I ran third in the main event, apprentice race, and then I think I ran fourth or fifth in the other one. Unfortunately, I was sick at the time. I was very under the weather. I had flu. I developed flu on the way over. But we still tried our best. We carried on, and we were there for just over a week, and it was lovely. I then ended up going back for a stint about 3 years later, or about 3 years out of my time, put it that way. And I rode a few winners, and then unfortunately fell off and broke my wrist, and came home to heal, and ended up not going back. I ended up doing well again in Cape Town. So I never went back. Next was Mauritius.
Beautiful Mauritius.
Yeah, it was lovely. It wasn't a strong stable, but it was certainly an enjoyable and a very good experience. And that was about, I think I was there for about 3.5 months. Rode a few winners. As I said, not a strong stable, so it wasn't bad.
That course is tight, Nicky. I mean, we like all of us, we've been there, we've raced there, walked the track. And it's tight, eh? Whoa.
Very tight, very tight. Racing, lovely. Loved racing. Hated work in the morning. Work was a pain in the it was, horses pull. They're not nice rides.
Okay.
They work sort of on that inside track.
Yes, which is even smaller. And
it's
even
an ambulance track on race day, so it's like a tar road. They all pull and they want to go fast, and they work from the same spot every time. So whether they're working fast or slow, they're going from the same gate.
Same gate, same opening.
So they don't know if they're sprinting or cantering, So I didn't enjoy work, but loved the racing. And eventually got fired because the horses weren't running well. Wasn't my fault, we didn't have good horses, they were in their place.
Sure.
After I got fired, I think they had one winner after that during the season, so
it proved that it wasn't you, it wasn't the issue.
It was the horses, but I stayed for an extra 2 weeks. It was, at the time, it was myself, Calvin Jupp, Francois Herold, Jeff was there. So we had a nice crew, and we had Bryce, and I had a wonderful time. Stayed for extra 2 weeks just on holiday, which they didn't enjoy, because they held my passport when I got there, because I didn't have a work permit yet. So when I went to fetch it, they told me, you must leave tomorrow. I was like, okay, and I stayed for 2 weeks. Anyway, that was Mauritius. I then stayed for a few years. That was 2005. I then rode in Cape Town. I had a very good season. I think it was about 2007 or 2008, where I led the championship for about 6 months.
Sure.
I think the first meeting of the season I had 4 winners, and I just flew from there. I think I just couldn't stop riding winners. At the same time, I was sponsored by Mike Bass Racing. Had just formulated their website. So Marky Bass said to me, hey, we'll put it on your breeches and we'll pay you per winner. Well, I nearly stuck them out in the first month. So he said, let's just take it easy, So I had a very good run, rode a lot of winners, and then all of a sudden just started battling. I then decided I wanted to go overseas again. I got itchy feet and applied for Dubai, and I applied for Hong Kong, and I applied for Australia at the same time.
Sure, okay.
Trevor Brown tried to get me in with Mike de Kock, and it was going forward, and then I can't remember what happened. They started battling to accept expats from here. They had too many or something, so there was like a break where they wouldn't accept. And I think that was at that time. Hong Kong was also, going. And then someone approached me from Australia, a guy called Brett Kavanagh, who was a very prominent trainer over there, still is a prominent trainer over there. He was in New South Wales at the time, in a place called Albury. I then started the paperwork, and it was just becoming a headache. I applied over there for a place called TEP that Sean Cormack had put me onto. And they tried, and they just said, we're going nowhere. So try in South Africa, which I did in Joburg. And same thing, nothing was happening, nothing. I think I started the process in February. Look, I eventually did get it, but that was like in September.
Sure.
So it took that long to actually get it done.
Get it off the ground, yeah.
So I then went, and it was wonderful. Very, very different. A lot of traveling. But wonderful. Rode my first meeting, I rode a winner. I then rode 2 more my next meeting, so really kicked off well. I think all in all I rode about 23 winners over there in the 6 months I was there. But I must have ridden on 22 or 23 different courses. Each week was a different course. Twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, we just traveled up to 7 hours to a meeting.
Sure.
Race all day and then 7 hours back. It was and there's no flying. You drive. So I had a friend of mine. We used to share the driving, or go with sometimes go with a truck if we were trucking horses. So I started. I think I spent 3 months in Albury, traveling from there as far up as to Melbourne. I rode in Melbourne at what was it called? Something Park, Sunshine Park, or something like that in Melbourne. It wasn't one of the bigger tracks. It was a smaller track, and then moved across to Queensland. So what happened was, over there the horses go on what they call a spell. It's like a rest.
Okay.
So they basically rest their whole yard. So there wasn't enough. It was myself and Robin Freeman who was riding for Brett at the time. And there wasn't enough to service both of us.
Okay.
So she got was getting the majority of the rides, and I was like second choice. So he sent me to a friend of his in Australia, in Queensland, called Shane Iverson, who had a lovely small yard, but didn't have a jock at the time. And he I rode a lot of winners for him. Also a lot of travelling, way up, almost up to close to Cairns,
Sure.
So it was wonderful. Got to see the country. Unfortunately, never went to Sydney, apart from flying in and flying out.
Yes.
But certainly saw a lot of I think it's the western side of Australia.
Well, that's it's amazing, because obviously, and I'm just saying it to the viewers, that we know one another through racing, but to actually listen and to hear your story, you've been blessed. You certainly have with where you've gone, where you've ridden, and it's
certainly was. A lot of jocks don't get the opportunity to travel. Certainly in the old days, you ask them where they travel to, and it was you only rode in South Africa. It was very difficult. Nowadays, we say to all our kids, being now at the academy, that it's the world's your oyster. You can go anywhere with a South African license. You can go anywhere.
Have you sort of come across anybody? I mean, that obviously you want to travel, as most jockeys want to travel, go to Hong Kong, go to Mauritius, go all over the place. But have you ever come across a jock that's happy to stay in South Africa and doesn't really want to travel?
Yeah, you do get them. Everybody, I think, at some stage would like to go overseas. But if you're comfortable here and earning a living, it all depends on their situation.
Yes.
They might have a young family and they're unable to travel.
Sure.
Take Warren Kennedy, for example. He had the opportunity to go to Hong Kong, and he decided to delay it because his Barbara was pregnant and had Jamie. Now another one. They had another one on the way.
Sure.
So it just depends on the circumstances. I think at the end of the day, everybody, given the opportunity, would like to travel.
Yes.
The money is amazing. I think wherever you go, the money is good. Especially Hong Kong and Singapore, even Australia, things like that. You'd be foolish not to travel, I think.
Yes. Okay, that's good. Let's talk now about the academy, the South African Jockey Academy, that continue to produce champion riders, as that fly wants to irritate us. That's where you work in. This place up the road, this beautiful academy, I mean, it's been part of your life. From you taught you everything that you know. Now is it safe to say giving back to the industry? But you work at the South African Jockey Academy. What's it like?
Yeah, look, Warren, you can't ask for a better working environment. I must say, not just the area that we've got, the facilities, but the people that we're working with. It's become. Certainly become a team effort, a very big team. It's not just any individual, we work as a team. And from the dietitian to the nurse to the biokineticists, everybody's involved. And it really is a team effort. And sometimes the kids don't appreciate it, and they got to realize that we do it for them. It's not for us.
Absolutely.
We've got nothing to gain out of it apart from making them champion apprentices. It's for them at the end of the day. And sometimes we feel that they don't appreciate it, and we've got to drum it into them.
Yes.
And whatever we do for them is for them at the end of the day. It's come a long way since I was there. If we had what we had now, we'd all be champions. Okay. I can say without a doubt we'd all be champions. With technology, the exercises, to the support staff, it's just amazing.
The discipline. Let me make it very clear, and I want the viewers to understand that it's not a criticism. It's a comparison. The discipline today is very strong. There's rules, there's regulations, there's discipline, but you can't help but get the feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when you were in the academy all those years ago, it was a different kind of discipline.
Yeah, for sure. We towed the line. We were too scared to step out of line. If it wasn't the riding masters on our backs, it was certainly the seniors. That's all disappeared. Look, it's come with the times, and
yes.
Warren, we can't dispute that. corporal punishment has gone out the window. We got a lot of tight slaps in those days. We were punished properly, and nowadays it's unfortunate you're not allowed to do that, and a couple of them need that. They need that discipline.
Yes. I needed it when I was young too. I got a few tight ones from my dad too. Don't worry about
for
that.
Sure, we all did. And for the better. If you look, you're going back, it certainly was for the better. It's very difficult nowadays, to keep them under wraps without that type of thing.
Yes.
We try and discipline them as much as we can, but it's tough. There's only a certain amount that you can do. And
discipline is a huge part of life. You need discipline. I mean, if you one day when you're an adult you want to give up smoking, for an example, you need discipline. If you want to run a successful job, you need to be disciplined that you go to work on time. I mean, discipline is probably one of the most important parts of life.
Especially in this game, you got to get up, you got to be disciplined to get up in the morning. This is your life, and you got to accept that. It's the same with us. If we don't get up and get to the bus on time in the morning, the kids don't get to work. And how would the trainers feel about that?
Yes.
And it's the same thing. It's a job. It's a passion. You've got to get up and do it. Some of the guys are missing work and I've got a headache and things like that. I wake up with aches and pains every day. It doesn't stop me from going to work.
Correct, yeah.
And that's what they don't understand. And it sometimes it comes to bite them at the end of the day.
Yeah. Nick's Graham Bailey, who's sadly going to be retiring soon. He is, I haven't met a man he'll mow the lawn, he'll hammer nails into the wall, he'll do absolutely everything.
Yeah, very passionate about his job. He certainly keeps everything in line. As you say, there's nothing that he can't do. And he sometimes tries to do a bit much, but he certainly gets it done. It takes him a while, but he will get it done at the end of the day. And he's been very good for the academy. I wouldn't want his job, put it that way. With the trying times that we're in now, COVID hit us for a six, as well as a lot of other businesses. We were unable to take in an intake in 2 years ago when COVID hit, which certainly knocked us back. And then last year only accepting Rachel, and then this next year our intake is looking very thin as well. So it's going to affect us down the line.
Yes.
We need apprentices to generate our income. And we are pretty thin at the moment. I think at some stage, at one stage we've got 9 race riders, and then we have injuries, we have suspensions, and we're down to 5, and then it's really tough on us. Our race rides are what gets us over the line at the end of the month.
You speak about trying times for absolutely everybody, financially and just in all different aspects, the pressures and the stresses. But the racing industry always seems to come out of it. You go to a horse sale and people say there's going to be no money around and it's going to be a buyer's market and you'll be able to pick horses for no money. The recent sale that we've just had was a resounding success. It always seems to come good. And in your opinion, the future for the academy, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's hard to say it looks bright, but I mean, it'll be okay, surely.
Yeah, look, Warren, I'm hoping it'll be okay for everyone's sake. We're all relying on
the staff, the whole industry needs the academy.
For sure, we need to service the industry, and that is our job. And unfortunately, we're trying to introduce international apprentices and things like that. But COVID just keeps knocking us back. We've had Mauritians lined up. We had kids from Turkey lined up, and COVID just put stop to that. We are still trying. We're really struggling to find local apprentices. We only had 9 that came to our camp that we now do. To try and introduce them into the game or into the apprenticeship before we actually start with them, which really sort of worked 3 years ago. I think we took 6 and all 6 are still here.
Okay, fantastic.
Including Kyle and a few of those guys. So this year's camp we had 9, of which we had to choose from, which we chose 5. And I think of those 5, only 2 have accepted so far. So we're looking a bit thin for next year. Okay. Look here, we've still got kids coming through that still be there. We'll lose Tabiso and Jalbo at the end of this year. They are going to qualify. We then have Cole and Fanelo and Gabriel and Caden still, he's up in Joburg now, but, guys that get Kyle, and then the younger guys, Sianda, Spare, Keratile, who are going to have to step up now, But it's tough. It's tough for them, that they sometimes get a bit despondent and it's difficult to keep them motivated.
Sure.
But they just got to keep knocking and things will come their way,
Because it's an industry where, from all aspects, as an owner, a trainer, a riding master, an apprentice, a jockey, a breeder, it can go bad so quickly, but as quickly that it goes bad, it can come good as quick. You just never know. As you say, an apprentice might be sort of stuck in the mud and he or she's getting a bit despondent, and then just boom, they could get that ride which puts them on the map, and it could change. It's so unpredictable. That's the joy of the sport. For
sure. We always say as riders we always used to look for that one horse, and that one horse can change your life.
Yes.
Anthony was on the other day and talking about Vengeance of Rain and things like that. By no means was he a bad jockey before that. He was a brilliant jockey. I mean, I was his kit boy and he was my mentor. But that one horse certainly changed his life.
Yes.
And that's all it takes. All they got to do is get in with a trainer, and that's it. You're on your way. It's exactly what happened with me and James. He completely changed my whole career.
Yes.
If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be here.
Sure. It's a lovely story.
So one horse but that's what you get up for in the morning.
Yes.
You got to keep yourself motivated and try different things. Sometimes they get into a routine and they don't want to change that routine.
Yes.
Sometimes they have to. They might be
try something different.
Riding for a trainer that's got 4 jocks and 2 appies already. You're wasting your time. You're not going to get a ride there, so try someone else. There's a lot of trainers that don't have appies.
Sure.
Try them, and if they turn you down, go back and keep knocking.
Yeah.
One day they'll realize, okay, look here, this guy's he's adamant, and I'll give him a ride.
The most interesting thing is, and again I say it, but you get one or two comments when people say, well, the show's not about me. It's not about me, it's about us. We're having a two-way discussion.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that, and I won't mention the trainer or the apprentice's name because just for their privacy. There was a particular apprentice that recently rode a bad race on a particular trainer's horse, and there was disappointment, etc. But what I'm encouraged to see is that trainer has given the apprentice the ride again. And I said to him the other day, why did you do, you've done that? He said, I want him to learn, and I want him to succeed, and I want him to win on that horse. And I think that's important, because how is he going to learn if he's not? And I know it's difficult because the trainer's got to now report to the owner, and the owner's going to say, but Johnny Smith rode such a bad race last time. Why on earth are you putting Johnny Smith back on?
Yep.
So the trainer's going to get the bollocking for it. But I think it's important, because how else are they going to learn?
Yeah, for sure. It's a vicious circle, the trainers taking flack, from the owners, and the jockeys are taking the flack from the trainers. But, for me, everyone's going to make mistakes. We all made mistakes. No one starts off brilliantly. Anybody can make a mistake. Horses are live animals. They do stupid things.
Yes.
And it can cost you at the end of the day, But for me, as long as they don't make that same mistake twice, then they're learning.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what we're there to do. We're there to help them through that mistake. We do a lot of race reviews with them after every meeting, go through their mistakes. If they're making mistakes that we can correct on the equisizer, we will then do that. So a lot of work is done behind the scenes that people don't see, and as I said, as long as they learn from their mistakes, then, give them another chance.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. When you're looking for young talent, what do you look for? I mean, everybody looks for different things and likes different qualities. I know when we were looking for Michael Shaw as the horse whisperer, we were looking for a strong man, and that he is. And Michael Shaw has been on our podcast before, and he's sitting enjoying an ice-cold beverage here. So we wish Michael Shaw all the very best, and thank him for all that he does for horse racing too. But in talent, what do you look for? I mean, when you're looking for an apprentice, what do you like to see? Temperament? Do you like to see manners? Do you like what is it that you like to see?
Yeah, look, obviously we've got our criteria that we look at is weight and height and things like that. They have introduced a fitness test, which includes the beep test, a light beep test, which all the kids do, push-ups and pull-ups and things like that. For me, I like to to look for someone that has done some sort of sport. Not only have they got that drive,
Yes.
but they've participated in a team. Can't call it a team sport, but a sport where you get involved and you know.
Although a jockey is a one-man show, at the end of the day, I hear what you're saying. It's not a team sport; it's a one-man sport. But when you're out there on the racecourse, you need to be conscious of your fellow players. You've got to be respectful in race riding, etc. So I understand what you're saying. You need to be part of a team, but it's not a team.
It's just you've got that competitive edge. Put it that way.
Yes.
That's what we're looking for, and we've had success with people or kids that have come from a sporty background. And the problem is nowadays is the ones that we're finding. Sport is almost gone in schools,
Okay.
Especially in the locations and things. We find these young black kids that are on. They don't, they might play soccer on the street and things like that, but they don't do any school sports.
Sure.
And that's where we find them lacking. Apart from that, it's difficult because you're having kids coming in that are anywhere from 15 up to 20, 21. And sometimes you find that they battle with a structure, of having it's not as bad as it used to be, but there still are years, you get your first year, your second year, and those are your seniors, and you have to respect them.
Yes.
It teaches you respect, number one, but it's a way of life in the academy. And it's lacking nowadays, and I think that's where the discipline comes in sometimes, or the lack thereof. But some of the older guys that come in the first year battle to respect, be it a second year or third year, that are younger than them. So to get that right is taking a bit of time, and it will take time. So it's difficult. Most of them have been pretty good. Per se, but you just got to keep them in check, I think, and that's the biggest thing.
I don't for one second expect you to name anybody, but the question I want to put to you is that, and it's hard to predict, because it's hard to say, well, Peter Brown's going to be the next Michael Roberts, etc., at such a young stage, or maybe you can, I don't know, but the question I'm trying to pose to you, and without mentioning names, because there's so many and you don't want to be accused of being biased, is there talent there? What you've got, I know the young ones that have just joined or that are going to be joining, it's hard to tell, and not everyone can be champions, as you said. But the question I'm asking is, your stock that you've got at the moment of these young riders, are you happy that things will click for them and they'll be okay, they'll be all right?
Yeah, you look at, as I say to the kids when we start off, we can train anybody. We can take them to a certain stage, and then they've got to do the rest.
Sure.
You can take anyone. It's all about opportunities. You take Caden Brewer for example. He started off well here, and then sort of got into a bit of a lull, and then started riding well again. But he just needed a chance. That was our decision to send him to Joburg, and he's kicked off absolutely amazing. He'll do well in Joburg, and nothing has changed. He's riding the same. He's been taught the same. It's just opportunities.
His ride on Paul Peters' horse, his second win, I think, and I'm sure you might have watched it. I actually phoned Paul afterwards, and we're very close with Paul, and we've got horses with him, and etc. And he was speaking so highly of Caden, and it was great to hear. And it was a fabulous ride. It really was. Yeah,
for sure. Everybody that we've got at the moment can ride. They wouldn't be here if they couldn't.
Sure. Good point.
And most of them we've taken to a point where we can only do so much more. Once they get to race riding level and things like that, we're there to monitor them and to help them with their mistakes and things like that. There's not much more than we can teach them. Race riding is going to get them to the next level. The more rides they get, the better they're going to get. Sure. Rachel has done very well, and will continue to do well.
Let's talk about her, because she's been, we've been longing for a female rider, and she's clearly it.
Yeah, definitely. We had our eye on her for a long time, even before she came to the academy and was interested. I think it was the right decision for her to finish school and then come. So it's definitely worked out in her favour. I think she matured a lot in those couple of years where after she first applied, and she rode a lot more. I think from her transitioning from work rider to apprentice was easy because she already had a relationship with the trainers. I mean, she'd been riding work for about 5 years before that, so it was pretty easy for her. Taking nothing away from her, she's a very good rider. She's got lovely hands. She's going to make mistakes, as we all do. She's serving a suspension at the moment, but she'll learn from it. She's very quick to learn. She's a very quick learner. She took to it very easy, and if she listens to advice and takes it, under advice, then she'll do well. She'll continue to do well. It's very tough for girls, and they've got to work twice as hard as what the boys do.
Yes.
It's a very physical game. The boys are obviously, physically stronger, but she's got a very good head on her, and mental fitness is very important in this game too. You've got to be mentally fit. You've got to take things in your stride almost. Like these suspensions, you've got to get over it. You've got to carry on, and it comes and goes very quickly. She'll be riding before you know it. Noms out and she's riding again, so she's going to get suspensions. Riding so much, when you're riding that much, you're going to pick up suspensions.
Sure.
When you get one ride here and there, you're going to have a clean record. You're not going to do anything wrong. Absolutely. Because we're able to monitor it. But when you're having 9 rides a meeting and 7 rides a meeting, one of them, something's going to go wrong. It's very difficult to have 9 races and not have it go wrong, especially when you're learning. But she's really holding her own, which is nice to see. She doesn't back down, which is good. The jocks give her a lot of flack, and which is right. She's got to learn. When you're out there, you've got to look after everyone, as you said. It's not just you out there. You've got 15, 16 jocks around you that have also got lives to live and got families to feed. Yeah. So you've got to look after each other out there. So she, as much as anybody else, has got to look after herself and everyone else.
Yeah. In life, we all come across difficult people. I mean, not everybody is as easygoing and as charming as you and I. But Andrew's not that easygoing, but we'll tackle him when he gets back. But you get difficult people in life, in all walks of life, in all industries. Trainers do become under pressure, financially, owner-wise, people not paying bills, etc. And how do you, if you get attacked by a trainer, or you get attacked by an owner, or you get attacked by somebody, another jockey, about the academy or about the staff or about the apprentice, how do you handle this? How do you, because, it's something I battled with, and I'm losing patience as I get older. But how do you handle it? Because you do get those grumpy people.
Yeah, for sure. In any walk of life, you're going to get that. You've got to take each situation, how it comes. Sometimes I brush it off, and sometimes, with me, I'm not an argumentative person per se. But if I think I'm right, I'll argue until you're blue in the face. Especially if it involves, one of the kids, I'll stand up for them. Sure. That's what we're here for. We're here to protect them. If I don't think they've done anything wrong, I will argue you until you're blue in the face. If I think they're wrong, then we'll go back and we'll discuss it, Sure. When you're dealing with horses and things like that, I've learned that a lot of people will fly off at you, fly off the cuff, have a go, but by the next day they're fine, it's blown over. Yes. It all depends what the situation is. No one wants horses to get hurt. We've had instances where kids have fallen off and horses get hurt, and the trainer will go off at you. But you got to just take it to heart, and sometimes take it on the chin, and then go back and discuss it. We have had a few instances where we think we're right, and we will argue it, and we have been right.
Quite rightly so. I mean,
we know what's going on, and we know our jobs, and I always say, when the trainers attack us, sometimes it's like me telling them, okay, that's fine, you stay at home tomorrow and I'll train your racehorses. I don't know anything about training racehorses, but it's the same thing,
Sure.
Not that they don't know how to train an apprentice, but that's what we've been put in place to do.
Sure.
And give us a bit of credit where credit's due,
Credit and a bit of leeway, yeah, absolutely. But as you say, I think for me, it all boils down to the way we all speak to one another. You know, that for me, yes, we get agitated, yes, we get angry, and as I said, you know, maybe that horse that the apprentice has fallen off is a 3 million rand horse, and now the owner's going to be cross, and it's a whole, as you said, it's a vicious circle. But for me, at the end of the day, and we all respect that we've got problems, and we've all got our own crosses to bear, and we've all got stresses in our lives. But at the end of the day, I think if we just take a different approach in the way we speak to one another, and you'll get a lot more sorted out.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I know when people come screaming and shouting and insulting me, I just shut down and move on.
Yeah.
But if you come and say, let's sit down, let's talk this out, let's sort it out, I'm a bit annoyed, you know, you get a lot more done that way.
Yeah, definitely. Look, yeah, obviously the trainers are the ones that are going to give the appies rides at the end of the day.
Yes.
So we've got to listen to what they say.
Sure.
And we try and take everything into account and work around it, you know, or try and get the best out of the situation. At the end of the day, we need the trainers as much as they need us. We need them, you know.
Yeah.
Works both ways.
Tabisa Gomede, who's sadly had a fall, and I believe that medical reports, chatting to Sister Butt, are okay. He's healing nicely, and you know, but that too, you know, is a tough part, because there he is doing well, riding winner after winner. Him and his boss, Duncan, you know, get on well, and they bump heads, but at the end of the day, they've done so well together. And yeah, that's a bit of a setback for Tabiso, of course, and the whole knock-on effect, because it sets back the stable, it sets back the academy, but obviously his health is of utmost importance. We had the privilege of taking him to Ashburton the other day. I'm sure you would have seen those photographs. And to hear his passion and the fact that he wanted to go back and see those horses, and he wanted to go and see his rides, that's got to warm your heart and the academy's heart.
Yeah, definitely. There, you know, we want nothing more than for him to come back and be successful as he was when he unfortunately fell off, you know. But that's part of the game. You're going to fall off. You know, I had lots of injuries when I rode, and you know, you never ever thought about not getting back. You know, the first thing you wanted to do was get back on the horse, and it comes with the territory. You know, you're going to have injuries, and it's the way that you handle them that separates the men from the boys. You know, you just got to take it in your stride and work on your rehab and get back as soon as you can. You know, nowadays with technology it's wonderful. You know, you can cut your time in almost half. You know, obviously you've got to let your injury heal. You've got to take each one into account, the different injuries that you get. You know, but the academy's got a wonderful support system. So you know, the buyers are there waiting in the wings. The nurse is there taking him to his appointment. So you know, everybody will do their best to get him back to peak fitness as quick as possible, including us. You know, he will qualify at the end of the year, but he's more than welcome to come back and do his rehab with us and start off with us and then come back to track. You know,
yes.
Riding the quieter horses that we do have, you know, there's nothing worse than coming back and maybe having another fall or something like that. You know, so you want to look after yourself, especially in the early sort of first month or whatever, and we're there to do that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about you in the closing stages of the race, and feel free to have a sip of your Coke. And as you know, it's a very relaxed, informal conversation. The team happy? Everybody happy? The production team behind the scenes? There we go. Let's talk about you and your family. Where did you meet your wife? Tell us about your wife. What work does she do? Where did you meet her, and how many years have you been married to her?
Funny story. So she did the equestrian side of the academy.
Okay.
So her story is that she met me at a braai that we had at my place where I was staying in the time in Waterfall. She came with a couple of we always had massive braais and, you know, get-togethers and things like that. And she came with a few friends. I think one of her friends was going out with one of my friends at the time. I couldn't tell you who it was. You know, I was always one of those jocks that like to take the kids out on the weekends and things like that. You know, I can name lots, you know, that I've taken out over the years. And she obviously came to the braai and she had met me and sort of, wouldn't say taken a fancy to me, but knew who I was.
Sure.
I had I think, if I can remember, I had just started going out with my ex, and so I wasn't really I had blinkers on, I wasn't really looking around per se. So I don't remember her from that thing, but we'd sort of remained friends on Facebook, or and I was traveling to Zimbabwe to ride one day, and I think it was about a year after I'd broken up with my ex, and I sent her a message for her birthday, and I then obviously went to Zim, and I had no comms in Zim, different things and networks and all that. So I got back to Joburg after I had a very good day. I had 2 winners, I think, won the main race and things like that, and got back to Joburg, and my flight was delayed, so I had like a 3-hour wait to come back to Durban. And I got this message on my phone and said, thanks for the wish, so nice to hear from you. And and we started chatting. We had to go to the Cell C or whatever store to get a charger because my phone was going to die, and found a plug in the middle of nowhere in Joburg Airport and a quiet spot, and we basically chatted for the whole 3 hours. And it just progressed from there. She was, at that time, I think she was actually in Cape Town. So she had moved to Cape Town exactly the same time that I had moved back to Durban. She was working for National Flag at that time, and it was just before the World Cup. So they were absolutely flying. She had a very good job there. She then started her job with Rentokil, that do the pesticides and things like that. But they don't only do pesticides, which a lot of people don't know. They do Ambius, which is they do all the sanitary bins, things like that. Everything in the bathrooms. Hand washers, dryers, things like that. So she started in sales, and then worked her way up, and she's now sort of one level below manager. Basically, she's a strategic account manager. So she manages all the main accounts around the country, from Mr. Price to Game to KFC, everything. So at the moment, she's inundated with disinfection. So if someone has got a disinfection from Mr. Price, they phone her, she gets a team there and things like that. So she does all of that. She only reports to one person, which is her boss, which sits up in Joburg. So she's got a very good job. She's been with them now since she left Cape Town. I think it's 7 years or 8 years. She doesn't ride anymore. She stopped that as soon as she left. She rode, I think, for about 2 years out the academy, and then stopped it. She got a job and went from there. She does get on a horse every now and then, but it's not a day-to-day thing.
Kids, you've got, just correct me if I'm wrong, 3 kids. Is it 2 kids?
Yeah.
2 kids.
That I know of.
And tell us their ages, tell us about them.
I've got a daughter, Megan, she's 8. Loves riding, passionate.
Well, I was going to say to you, any chance of another jockey?
Cost me a fortune. It's a joke. Unfortunately, last year we had the extra yard at the academy, which we looked to rent out. So Dominique Ray, who ran a riding school up here at Summerford, took it over. It's called the Yard, and I think she was there for 2 minutes, and Megan had already gone to her and say, I want to ride, without my knowing. She said, you're welcome, of course. So she started with her. She's wonderful. She just wants to ride every day now. So she's very much into the riding. She's very bright at school. She doesn't do a lot, but she seems to get very good marks.
Yes.
So I think she's very bright. Must get it from my wife, certainly not from my side. The riding, I think, yes, she gets it from my side. I think I'm a better rider than my wife was. But very passionate about riding, and which is good. Loves the academy. Got Rocky's 2 daughters there now. She gets on very well with his younger one, who's 9. And she gets home from school and disappears, which is wonderful for kids. She does her homework and all that, but she loves the horses. She's always at stables with me. And then my little one, Landon, is 3. No interest in the horses.
Sure.
Absolutely loves anything that moves. Absolutely passionate about tractors. I'm hoping he won't become a tractor driver, because I don't think he's going to earn a living. But absolutely loves tractors, but also very bright. Loves school. I say he doesn't like the horses. He comes down and he enjoys Apis, who's our newest horse, who absolutely loves kids. Megan also loves him and rides him, when she gets the time. They're both wonderful kids. Haven't given us a day's trouble. Very healthy. We've got on the classic priority with Discovery, and we've got so much savings because we never use it. It's absolutely wonderful. Touch wood, they've been healthy, wonderful kids. We hear of people talking about how their kids are battling with this and that and the other, and we just say how lucky we are to have what we have. They test us every now and then, but we thought Megan was easy, and then Landon came along, and he is like unbelievable. Sure. He goes to bed. He just doesn't give us any trouble. He's amazing.
That is a blessing, absolutely.
Yeah.
Two last things to touch on before we wrap up, and I'll go through the card, and you can head on back to headquarters. Food for you, did you ever, when you were a jockey, did you battle with your weight or not at all?
Not at all.
And now, your favorite food, favorite restaurant, if I said, come on, we're going for dinner, where do you want me to take you?
Probably Chinese.
Okay.
I love Chinese. Funny enough, when I went over to Macau as an apprentice and went back again, people used to say, oh, you'll never eat their food, you'll go to McDonald's every day and things like that. Well, in all my time I was there, I don't think I went to McDonald's once. Okay. I chowed everything over there. Some funny things too, believe me. So yeah, I am a bit fussy in saying that. I don't eat certain things, like I don't eat tomato, I don't eat cheese. I'm quite fussy, but I love pizza, so
you sound a bit like my younger stepdaughter. She will not have cheese, but she wants extra cheese on her margarita.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's very strange. I will not eat a block of cheese or things like that in a salad, or I'm not a big salad fan. I'm a salad dodger. Okay. Chinese is probably my favorite, and I cook at home. So my wife doesn't cook, I cook. So I'm always, I wouldn't say experimenting, but I like trying new things. I won't say it was a cooking course per se, but I stayed with Trevor Brown in Cape Town with his he was going out with Vaughan Marshall's daughter Kate, and they ran a catering business, and they used to cater for it was like a little, I don't know if you've been on the Sari Marais here in Durban.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's almost like a similar thing where they go out into the harbour, but they provide food.
Okay.
So you could book a cruise, but so they provided the food for that cruise, and they used to go out into the harbour, and it was like an hour and a half or 2 hours, so we did like a 3-course meal, and that's how I started, and I really enjoyed it, and she taught me basically everything from the beginning, and I carried on from there. Obviously lived on my own for a long time, so I had to feed myself. Never had a problem with my weight, so I ate whatever I wanted, just my passion just grew from there. So bit of passion for cooking, and I enjoy it.
Nick, hobbies, besides going to the races and teaching the kids and watching racing, and obviously you still love racing, but any other hobbies?
Don't have a lot of time for hobbies. Obviously cooking. I like to play golf. I lived on a golf course in Cape Town that my dad built at Greenways. I lived there for on odd occasions. It was quite far away from Kenilworth and training and that, so I didn't stay there too much, but I did stay there on occasion, and it was only a 9-hole golf course, but sort of very good for my short game. I'm probably I think I'm an 18 handicap, it probably should be about a 10, if I played all the time. I can play, just don't get the time. Raymond Danielson bugs me all the time to come and play when he's here, but he always asks me at the most opportune times. The one day, I think it was a Sunday morning, and he says, "Are you racing?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm racing." So he says, "Let's play before races." I'm like,
where are we going?
In Maritzburg. So I'm like, "No, Raymond, I'm not playing."
I know.
Not the right time. But we do play when we can. Apart from that, obviously, my family love the bush.
You went recently to the game reserve, didn't you?
We haven't been to the game reserve for we went to Tlhuri not so long ago. We try and use our time as best as possible. We've just acquired half of Elaine's grandfather's timeshare with First Resorts.
Okay.
So we bought that. So we'll try and go away a lot more. We go up to a place in the Underberg which the kids absolutely love, Bushman's Neck, which is amazing for the kids, and we absolutely love it. So we try and go there sort of 2 or 3 times a year. Apart from that, Elaine's family is still very much involved in her life, and unfortunately I lost my mom in September. So just myself and my dad and my younger brother. Now I lost my older brother last year. So yeah, it's been a bit tough. But yeah, we crack on. My dad's still here, and he's down the coast. Also very friendly with James, and they go out to lunch all the time.
Okay.
So yeah, my brother came up from Cape Town after we lost my mom, so he's here now. He works from home. So yeah, we're going down on Saturday to go and see him and have a bit of lunch. He lives on the beach, so the kids love the beach. But yeah, apart from that, we just do what we have to do.
Nick's last question, I promise you, is two questions in one. I'll ask them both because I said one question. What is it that made you, or what is it that you had to stop race riding? That's the first part of the question. And then what did you do between stopping riding and then going to the academy?
Not much. I didn't have time. I think I stopped riding in December.
Okay.
I had Christmas and New Year and then joined the academy on the 5th.
So it was as quick as that.
Yeah,
Quite right.
it was that quick. Look, yeah, I didn't have to stop. I got into a routine that I wasn't enjoying. I'm not saying that I wasn't enjoying it. I was battling a little bit. I was employed by Alistair Gordon at the time, but it was myself and the late Alec Forbes riding for him.
Yes.
So Alec got the majority of the rides and I got the second choice. I was getting itchy feet again. My daughter had just been born. She was about 8 months old. I said to my wife, look here, I've got to look at overseas or do something else. And Mr. Curtis had spoken to me, who was very hard on me as an apprentice, but then became a mentor to me, and we stayed in touch. We still are in touch today.
Wonderful
he always gives
man.
me advice.
Yeah.
Still very involved in the academy. You know, he's like a lifetime member type thing. Always comes to our riding masters meetings, and his advice is invaluable. You know, so he said to me, look, he thinks this position is going to come up. What do I think? So I thought about it. I said to my wife, she said, well, apply for it and just see. You know,
yes.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. She's a firm believer of that, and so it happened. I went for the interviews and got the job, and yeah, that was it. You know, I always wanted to stay in racing, and for me, looking at it, there's not a lot of avenues that you can pursue. You know, there's presenting, there's a start, you know, training or assistant trainer, which I've been behind the scenes. I will never train a horse. I can promise you that. You know, for me, it's a thankless job. It's long hours. If you don't have an assistant, you're working every day.
Yes.
You're working weekends. It just wasn't a life for me, you know. And this was there was no position for staffs at that time. I had a look, and there's a very small window with that, and it doesn't open very often, you know. So this was the next best thing, and I always wanted to give back, and I thought this was a way to do it. Love teaching the kids. I love watching them grow. If we could make them all champions, that would be what I would want to do. But it's not easy out there. But as long as we get them going and set them on their way, and that's our passion.
Nicky, we could sit here for another 3 hours and chat, but unfortunately you've got things to do, I've got things to do, but what a wonderful conversation, and so interesting to hear your story and what you're currently doing, and all that's left from us, from the podcast team, is to thank you for your time and to thank you for all that you and your colleagues do for horse racing, and keep it up, and just I'm going to go through the race card now, so when you've finished, you just get up and carry on. And I'll wrap up the podcast. But from all of us, thank you very much, and we wish you guys all the best.
Perfect. Thanks for the opportunity.
Lovely. And to speak to the rest of your colleagues, we're going to get them all on the podcast.
Yeah, get Paul on. Yeah,
absolutely. We've got to get Martin.
He'll have to sit a bit further back from the table, but that's okay.
Nicky, all the best to you, and thanks very much.
Thanks, mate.
We'll see you at the races during the weekend. That's Nicky Roebuck, who is one of the riding masters at the South African Jockey Academy. And what a wonderful, wonderful story. Each and everybody in this beautiful game has their own story to tell, and from where they came from and how they, carrying on. And we wish Nicky and the whole team at the South African Jockey Academy all the very, very best. Racing takes place on Sunday, the 5th of December, 2021. Yes, friends, can you believe it? December, before we can say Jack Robinson, it'll be the end of the year and we'll be into 2022. How time flies. I can't say how time flies when we've been having fun, because it certainly hasn't been a fun year with COVID and all that goes with it. But we race at Hollywood Bets Scottsville, obviously on the grass, and I'm going to just rattle through a couple of horses that I think are worth following. The first race is at 12 o'clock over 800 meters, the 2-year-old race for the boys, and Mike Miller holds a very strong hand. Silver Ducat and Royal Sovereign are 2 horses to keep an eye out for. Having a word with the yard for the show, the GTV preview show, they believe that Silver Ducat and Royal Sovereign are the ones that are going to fight it out. The second race, number 2, My Eloise, certainly got a big chance. Number 3, Yata, I'm expecting a lot more from her than she served up last time. And for me, the roughie in the race is number 6, Demigod. And in actual fact, if number 6, Demigod, had to win, I wouldn't be shocked. Race 3, number 3, All the Time, for Yogus Govender and Ashton Aries, knocking at the door, and I think this colt is going to be hard to beat. I'm then going to move on to the 4th race, where I like number 11, Giambantista. I think the distance and the course will suit him. I think he's one for the shortlist. 5th race, we'll skip the 5th race, quite a tough race. The 6th race, I make it a 2-horse race between 3, Name of the Game, and number 11, Park and Fly. I race Park and Fly with my family, and the word from the stable is that she's doing exceptionally well, and she should be able to go very close to winning. I am worried about number 3, Name of the Game, as the danger. The rest of the card races 7, 8, and 9 look to be tough. Try and include as many as you can in your pick 6, but we look set to be at Scottsville, Hollywood Bet Scottsville on Sunday for a good day's racing. Andrew Harrison will be back next week, and we can give him a hard time for his absenteeism yet again. But all that's left for me to do is to thank Nicky once again for his time, and to thank the South African Jockey Academy for all that they do. Thanks to the A-team. I'm glad that Tawanda has sent the A-team, and we wish him a speedy recovery. He's a little under the weather. Get well soon, Tawanda. From all of us here at the In the Box Seat podcast, we wish you well, and stay safe, be nice, and as always, we'll see you on Sunday from the number 1 box.
Thank you.